from my perspective, a pretty big correlation between spirituality, between something that exists outside of the five sense reality and creativity. And that when you're being a creative, you're tapping into your spirituality. You're tapping into an aspect of yourself that doesn't exist in the five sense reality. And you're bringing that back into the five sense reality, however you're able to do that, whether that is through, for me, it's speaking, it's voice, it's communicating with people. That's where I bring what I see in the future or outside of this current existence. That's how I bring that into the current existence. Welcome to Changing the Channel with Joe Garner, a show about shifting our individual and collective beliefs on what is possible for the future of humanity. As our understanding of how our reality continues to shift, we are at a point of reunification between science and spirituality. What does the world look like when we break free from the generational trauma that has kept most humans playing small for thousands of years and step into our full power as the co-creators of this reality? I always ask that you keep an open mind with this podcast. Ask yourself what resonates with my truth at this time and what does not. Respect your intuition, but see if you can get through the whole show, because there might be that little nugget buried deep in the conversation that unlocks something for you. All right, welcome back to Changing the Channel. I am joined by somebody who I've known for a long time. Her name is Leah Beach, and she is the founder of the Developing Artists Collaboration, which is I'm from Southern Delaware, so it's a local community-led group of artists who are kind of changing the perspective on what it means to be an artist in business. So welcome to the show, Leah. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. So yeah, I met Leah, I would say probably 12, 13 years ago. We were kind of running in the same circles down at the beach, and I had known about her through a mutual friend, and then, we had talked a couple times, and eventually it was 2020, I think we met in the coffee shop and had a hour and a half long conversation, which kind of changed and altered both of our trajectories. So we were just sharing, we were talking, we were both business owners at the time. We were sharing about our different perspectives, and I think in that space we kind of came together, and I ended up joining the board of the DAC, and I've been kind of helping Leah along this pathway from where she was then to where she is now. And it's amazing to see the transformation that has happened in you, how much things have changed over the last 3 or 4 years that we've really known each other and gotten into this. So I think it would be best just to kind of start with your story. Start with where you came from and how it led into DAC, and then what cool projects do you have coming up in the future?
Yeah, my gosh, there is so much to cover. And yeah, it's so funny you brought up that conversation, because thinking about who we were and what we were doing at that time, and then now seeing what's happened over the last year, it's amazing the growth that both of us have had. So I'm really excited to talk more about this.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's start with your story. Where did it all begin?
Well, I was born in Dover, Delaware, and I definitely experienced a really interesting childhood that I believe really set me up for the person that I am and my purpose on this planet. I think so many of us have experienced things in our childhood that really defined it was supposed to happen, because I truly believe that we pick our parents coming into this world. And the ones that I chose definitely taught me a lot about what it means to be loved. And that is something that I've had to really battle with and heal as an adult. So I moved to live with my dad when I was 13 years old, and he lived in Huntsville, Alabama. And that time in my life was when I really discovered art and why I loved it so much. It was really cool actually growing up with my stepmother. She is a commercial artist. So basically, I grew up knowing that if you could paint dancing reindeers and Walmart would buy it and turn it into something that you could put on your mantle. So this idea of artists selling things has definitely been a part of my narrative as a child, especially seeing my stepmother, who is to this day so successful and was very successful back when you had to hand draw everything.
Are you feeling a little bit stuck? Like you've been doing the work, but you're just not sure what the next steps are? Right now, I'm offering coaching through meditation and intuition to tap into your soul to get the hints about where your life is heading towards. What are the next steps for you? So if you're interested, check out the show notes and set up a time to just check. I've got a free 30-minute discovery call that you can sign up for. I look forward to hearing from you, and please feel free to reach out.
So pursuing art in high school looked like photography for me. And I loved to get myself in trouble all the time. And like many disruptive adults, I think that we were very disruptive when we were children and teenagers. So this connection that I had with my parents, I don't really have a traditional like mother daughter, father daughter connection. So I believe that this decision when I was 18 to just kind of go and do my own thing, I haven't really looked back since. So I never really connected back with my parents ever again. They've been in and out of my life, but this has been very much my journey since then. And I had this choice. I wanted to pursue photography. So instead of going to college because I thought I was too cool for it, I literally got in my car and made a decision to either drive to Portland, Oregon, and travel around with a band, or to go back to Delaware for a photography internship with this photographer who was very famous in like the 60s, 70s. He was the official World Trade Center photographer.
Mhm.
And when I decided to take that route, I drove my car back to Delaware and began that journey. So since he has since passed, and I love to be respectful of him, it was a not what I expected it to be. It was a very difficult journey for an 18-year-old, especially when you've never worked any before in your life for any professional capacity. So I decided really fast that I did want to go to school. So I started going to art school. I went to Delaware College of Art and Design. And while I was in school, I really fell in love with film photography and started photographing my great grandmother in my second year who had dementia. And this journey of watching her waiting to die just was this like crazy thing at that age. So I was at that point I was 19, and I was spending all this time watching this person that I love so much. She had dementia for 13 years before she passed, which was brutal. I was financially it was a burden on our family, and you don't want to say that, but it is the reality of dementia care. And watching her kind of sit and wait to die was something that was just such a profound experience to kind of recognize that was what was happening. So, I wanted to continue going to art school, but I realized that that was going to be an insane financial commitment. So I just became very invested in figuring out how people lived with dementia in developing countries. I got into this really prestigious photography competition for adult professional photographers. I got into it when I was in art school, and they had an exhibition for all the winners in New York City. And when I was there, I didn't put winner on my tag. I put student, and everyone kept thinking I was there for interviews. It was really funny.
Hmm.
Um, and I met this editor, and he asked me if I'd ever thought about how patients lived with it in developing countries. And it was like this, I had to find out. I went online and I couldn't figure that out anywhere. So I moved to the beach after school and just became really dedicated to trying to see if I could get to a developing country and be able to photograph. So and that's when you and I met when I was like 21, and we were out having fun in Dewey.
Mm.
And Matt Adams will proudly talk about my Dewey documentary. And then I was trying to do art around town, and it was such an interesting thing to do right out of school. But I ended up finding a internship with a organization in Shimoni, Kenya. So it was a community development and critical infrastructure internship, and it had an emphasis in healthcare where we would be working in the village clinic. So I literally bought a one-way ticket. This was like 2013, one-way ticket to Kenya, jumped on a plane, signed up for that internship, and brought my camera and had no idea what the heck I was doing, and found myself in coastal Kenya when I was 23.
Wow.
Yeah, and
So then from there, like, when did you decide to start DAC? What was that process like?
so it's really important that when I was in Kenya, I discovered that as an artist, I was able to help this village so much. So I was in the clinic making culturally sensitive resources. I was working with this women's group making a handicraft. They made these little palm products that were really cool. Catalog, all of these different things to really help people. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so good doing this. My art is uplifting this community. And I ended up photographing in Kenya. I ended up going to South Africa after that. I created a photography program for these kids in a township. It was just really falling in love with being an artist and helping people with it. And when I got home, I was hungry for that. I wanted that. I wanted to find that here. And I ended up pursuing that photography. It took me to some incredible places, that story of global dementia. But when I got back from Africa in 2015, and I wanted to find that so badly to be able to help people with my work. And that's when DAC started taking form because I found that I first needed to make money and I really wanted to make money with my art. But I found that I didn't have those business practices. There wasn't any opportunities for emerging artists here. There's like 3 galleries.
Mhm.
So with a group of friends, we started showing our work together. And that's kind of like the impetus of what really got this going down here.
Yeah. So then as DAC evolved, yeah, I think the idea behind it evolved. So now, 8 years later, what what is DAC about at this moment in time?
Yeah. Well, we really found our purpose in the pandemic, which I think the pandemic either made or it broke organizations and businesses. Um, Previous to the pandemic, I think our whole thing was doing some cool art shows, and it was not really. I mean, we were definitely professional in our practices to a degree of doing things by the book for a small organization operating off of like $200,000. That's what it got up to in the pandemic. And what kind of happened was we found so many artists didn't know how to not only like have best business practices, but marketing themselves. So many emerging artists don't have websites. They're on Etsy. And if you're selling on Etsy, if someone buys your artwork off Etsy, they bought their artwork from Etsy, not from Joe Garner. So we really were seeing that there were artists that were truly talented and were creating this great work, but like they didn't have a way of getting it out to people. So we in the pandemic, that's where we found our career support program that we built, which was this intensive program that helped it's like workforce development, but it also helped create that community of artists, and it gave them that one-on-one business coaching that was really important. And that is what we have focused on over the last couple of years growing. And now what DAC has really become is this organization. It's a virtual hub now, and this offers career development resources. It also allows people to connect, which is so crucial for artists because when you're on an island, you're creating, but you're not a part of something that uplifts you. And that community is so important. And we believe that if an artist has the foundation of a strong career, then they're going to have that space to give back. They're going to have that space to do community work. The whole time I did any of my work in Africa or anywhere, my dementia work, I wasn't paid for it. So it was a scramble to go bartend and try to do a mural job so that I could make ends meet so I could do this community work that helped people. So that was what was really missing was building it's the hierarchy of need. Artists are always flipped upside down.
Mhm.
So that solid business foundation is the first part and really being able to give back.
Yeah, and you guys are providing that. You're giving almost step-by-step directions. You're also giving a opportunity for them to sell through the market, through all the events that you do, and it's been a really awesome thing to be a part of, to kind of bring my business background to, this artistic, development program, and really share what my perspective is, which again, I think we share the same perspective, is that in this new world, as we continue to transition away from separation consciousness into a more harmonious, more unified consciousness, that the role of the artist becomes way larger than it has been seen before. The idea that the artist is the one we should be looking towards for creative ideas, for creative ways to move humanity forward, I think is very powerful. So from your perspective, what does the artist's role play as we kind of transition humanity away from what it used to be into this new reality, into this new humanity that we're moving towards?
Well, I think it's actually a little bit more simple than I think people think. It just goes from delivering a product to being. Being an artist is delivering a product. You value my soul. I put my soul on a plate, on in a microphone, on a canvas. Like that is what being an artist is, and our society currently monetizes that. A dentist doesn't quite describe perhaps them putting their soul into your teeth, which, I'm not going to say that's not, but the dentist that I have, typically when you're doctor dentist, more traditionally, you are doing a job, you're doing a trade, you're doing something that should be done the same way. The way your dentist does your teeth and the way my dentist does my teeth should be this.
Mhm.
Now, an artist, every single artist is unique and it's different. And there's no such thing as one artist creating the same thing as another. Everything is different. That's what's so beautiful about art is that it doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. If I draw you something right now, it doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. And that's such an exciting, beautiful thing. But what has made this such a crux for artists is that it's monetized. And that is an interesting thing to think about is what tends to get in the way of the artist the most is the whole part of monetizing it.
Yeah.
It's the scarcity mindset that is embedded in artists because we live in a society that does not really set up to allow us to thrive. So if you get rid of the monetization of the product that the artist creates and the artist can just create for the sense of creation, I think that's the shift.
So then how does that work? Like how are they provided for at that point? Like how would an artist be provided for? How would they eat, sleep, have the roof over themselves?
Well, I think there's an end goal and then there's I mean, my crazy idea, I think that you align with this, and I think a lot of people that probably are watching this would agree to some sort that we are going through a revolution in this world and money will be different. Time will be different. Our life's purposes will be different. And I think that AI and software and there's so much technology that can replace so much of the work that makes the lower middle class have to be kind of trapped in the modalities that they're in. But I believe that as that system changes and how we work changes, that by these technologies replacing the type of work that bogs us down, that may not, that maybe holds a lot of people back from creating art. I think the being an artist is going to mean something different. I think a lot more people that wouldn't think they are artists will be able to express creativity because I believe it lives in all of us, dentists included.
So that was my next question. Like, do you think that everybody has that artist inside of them? And maybe do you have any tips on, as people start to have the freedom to find that artist inside of them, how do you tap into that energy that is your artist?
Step one, stop calling yourself not an artist. If I had a damn dollar for every person that's like, well, I'm not an artist. Well, if you say it, then you don't see yourself that way. But I promise we are creative beings. That is part of being the human experience is being creative. The only difference I think between, there are artists out there that I think have gifts that are just, it's immeasurable how this talent that they have when you see someone that's creating something that seems to come from some other dimension that they can put together something, and a lot of them untrained. I think it's different humans have different gifts, and I think that creativity is one that it just looks different. I think that someone that might not be able to paint a painting the way that I paint a painting, they might be able to create something with their hands differently. They might be able to write something, speak something. I think creativity is going to evolve, especially with access to technology. I think that there is just going to be a shift, a renaissance of what a human can do, which it's crazy to even think about and like talk about. And this actually gets me in trouble, not when I talk about it, because this idea of being an artist is surrounded by scarcity, that it is rare to be an artist. That's what makes my work valuable, is that it's rare, scarce. This is such a modality. This is what is the societal belief about artists on the fringe, the 1%. I think that creativity is kind of locked in this box of it being this like exclusivity that you can only tap into if you are a creative person. I think that as we shift out of that and more people see it within themselves and they know how to have the tools to be able to create in different mediums and not being trapped having to sell, I think that is what's going to evolve this consciousness around creativity.
Yeah, I can definitely see that and feel that happening, especially, I mean, you talk about AI, you talk about these systems that allow us to focus a lot less on the mundanity of creating and the focus all of your energy on the excitement of being able to create brand new things that have never existed before. Tap into, again, there's seems to be, from my perspective, a pretty big correlation between spirituality, between something that exists outside of the five sense reality, and creativity. And that when you're being a creative, you're tapping into your spirituality. You're tapping into an aspect of yourself that doesn't exist in the five sense reality. And you're bringing that back into the five sense reality, however you're able to do that, whether that is through, for me, it's speaking, it's voice, it's communicating with people. That's where I bring what I see in the future or outside of this current existence. That's how I bring that into the current existence. And for others, they draw it. For others, they create a movie. For others, they write a song. And this is, that's when people think of artists, I think they often forget that artists are anyone that brings a vision of the future into the present.
Yep.
That would be what I would call an artistic endeavor. And that can be done any way possible. Even Steve Jobs, you could call him an artist for envisioning the technologies that have allowed us to, have this communication right now. We're both using MacBooks, and we're both on Google Chrome, which, the guys at Google have put together. So again, this I think a lot of people look at technology and they're like, "Oh, that's just technology." It's like, no, somebody envisioned that. Somebody dreamed that into reality and then created it and made it into this thing. And um, that seems to be where we're moving towards in humanity.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. I don't know how to answer the question, what does art look like without money? Because value is so twisted into the fabric of why we create. I don't really know what my art would look like if money wasn't involved. I'm being honest with you. Like my animals that I paint, I love painting animals so much, and I do it in a really cool, funky, colorful way. Uh, but I create things to sell them because I know that they sell. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of artists can attune to that. I think artists that have created a brand for themselves where they can really sell what is in their heart, that takes a really long time. And to a degree, I think at all times artists are creating to sell. Um, which would be really interesting to see what art would be like in a world where it's purely there for the enjoyment of creation.
Right. And I think we're many, many years away from that. But like you said, there's steps. And I think we're moving towards these new steps, these new ideas where people can be. Imagine a world where, let's say you had to work for 20 hours a week, right? And you still made the same amount of money that you were making when you were working 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week. But because of AI, because you have technology, because you have the ability to do more in less time, and this is what technology does, it lowers the amount of time it takes you to do the same task, and it lowers the amount of human input that it takes to do that same task. So as that continues to go, you'll have 40 extra hours a week where you can focus on your creative endeavors, whatever those creative endeavors are. And maybe those creative endeavors turn into a money making opportunity, a place where you can continue to make money. I mean, that's certainly what I hope.
Yeah.
Having this podcast, as much as I enjoy these conversations and I love doing them, I'm also, and there's 20% of me that it's like, okay, well, how do we monetize this thing? Like, where do we go from here? What is the next step? You can't just continue to do a podcast for free no matter what. And I think there's a little bit of a balance that you can certainly walk, especially as we make this transition, especially as we move from wherever we are right now to wherever we're going. And again, it's very difficult to predict the future and where that goes. So being open to whatever is showing up is certainly an aspect of this transition that we're in. But just seeing what feels right and doing what feels right certainly has led me to a good place and figuring out, okay, I do need to monetize this, but I can do it in a easy, low impact, not
Mhm.
super salesy. I don't have to be running around saying, hey, buy my product, buy my product, buy my product. It's like, I'll drop in a little ad every once in a while for a product that I'm offering or a service that I have, and allow that to kind of be that product. But I had a gentleman on earlier today who was talking about, the best way you want to create value and wealth in the world, you've got to have a purpose to help others. Like that's the key to creating value and wealth in this world and where we're transitioning towards. So finding that purpose, that value, and I think artists typically have that purpose figured out. It's finding where people value that purpose is kind of that next step on trying to monetize whatever they're doing.
Yeah. And that comes from two things. That comes from an artist understanding their value, having good business practices, and knowing what they want because it's kind of it's pretty typical that a lot of artists just don't know what they want. They do a million things. And I think it's important to also note that DAC is very dedicated to emerging artists. We believe that any artist of any stage or any medium can be a part of our organization, but we really are dedicated to helping emerging and hobby level artists. But you can't grow an artist and give them the tools to succeed without educating a society for them to thrive in. And that I feel is my personal calling. That is why I started DAC. I think DAC was definitely the purpose of this was to do this for artists, but I think it is equal in creating a environment, an ecosystem of where artists can thrive. Because you really can't have someone have a successful career and like making money is a really big part of that, especially where we are right now in this world with the wealth disparity. It is crazy what you need, especially to live where we live.
Mhm.
You can't buy a home for under $1 million here.
It's
And
crazy.
the majority of Sussex County doesn't make over $50,000 a year. The vast majority. It's really crazy, the wealth disparity in this community. And that, I mean, a lot of communities suffer from that. Um, but when it comes to artists, it is, I think, has been the biggest challenge for our organization has been educating society about why it's so important for them to support artists and the ripple effect that can have.
Yeah, yeah. The support is key, especially early on, especially when you're just getting into that and you're making connections and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I do? How do I do that? And you guys provide a coaching service as well. So talk a little bit about that. Like, how does that coaching service work?
Yeah. Well, I think what's been really what I love so much about DAC has been how authentic our journey has been. And as a emerging artist, and our artist development director is also an emerging artist, and our board president is a professional artist, a lot of what we have developed over the last 3 years has been kind of a well, this is what's worked for us. And you really turned me on to Mind Valley in 2021, which changed my life for so many different reasons. But what I love so much about Mind Valley is the platform itself and the video aspect of it, in that you can do it in manageable chunks on your own time. What Mind Valley, I think, lacks is the one-on-one aspect. And I think that that's something that Masterclass also and other platforms that offer video is that there is this level of here's all these tools, you do the work, you get out what you put in, which I think is very important, especially when you think about sustainability. It is really expensive to pay people to deliver content. It is really cost effective to pre-record content. So I think a lot of companies, they tend to really rely on the pre-recorded content and the resources that accompany them. Where we are pivoting, it started out as our career development was all very in person and it was very expensive. It also would be very disruptive because we would have a couple people in the cohorts that would do these programs. It'd be like 12 people, and one of them would be really disruptive, ask a lot of dumb questions, do really terrible the whole time, be a classic artist, which I'm allowed to poke because I am one and I'm disruptive and I can be annoying. So
Hmm.
let me be clear, I'm not throwing shade. But then we pivoted to 100% online. No interaction of artists, no community, just Ryan delivering 3 hours of content virtually, which was exhausting. So then we switched to more pre-recorded content, and we realized that like nothing was really reaching anyone, it wasn't really selling. So that is where we are pivoting for it to be this hybrid system. And then it also having this level of connection. I believe that we are creating a space that's for any type of artist to be able to be a part of and can thrive in, and whatever that looked like. If you're jumping in, you want to watch a couple videos for free, make a profile, that's cool. If you want to pay a subscription and you want access to all of our content plus one-on-one on-demand support at the end of your workshops that you do. The example would be if you do Mind Valley, you do a quest, and at the end of it, you get to have one-on-one access kind of throughout the journey, not so much the end, but throughout the journey of that. Um, it's this level of the in person and the community and the education, because we don't need to have experts giving the education. Pre recorded is the most sustainable, but having experts being able to help other artists and utilizing professional artists that want to give back and they want to mentor. So we have so many really cool aspects of this program. What has been really difficult for us is that we have had to monetize this while we've been building it. So we have had very little grant support for this program. We have had to sell it while we're also building it at the same time, which has been really stressful. So right now we're investing in research and development. We're really working to get funding through the state to be able to actually really sink our teeth into making this a sustainable, really impactful program that can help artists anywhere. So it's a really cool time right now for us because I think we're building the foundation of something that hopefully other states organizations can emulate, because they're this idea of like we did it first, we did it best, that's just doesn't work. So we can do something really great that can help artists in Delaware, and we can partner with other organizations to pick up our model and to do this. Like we could create something that can have a ripple effect around the world.
Right. And that's the whole idea behind the purpose. It's like, yeah, you might have a purpose, but if you don't share it with other people, if you don't help other people find their purpose, if you don't help take the knowledge that you have and share it with as many people as possible, it builds these little bubbles. And then that's kind of the world that we've been existing in. All these little bubbles all over the world where there's, a bubble of artists here and there's a bubble of big technology over here. And as we move towards this global society, as we start to really open up to this humanity wide existence, I think those bubbles start to pop and we start to share in all of the wealth of knowledge that all of humanity has. And it's going to be a very awesome time. But
Yeah.
again, with that comes, you have to change your mindset. You have to change how you view reality as we go through all these massive shifts. So, from your perspective, like, you're seeing artists go from this victimhood mentality, this scarcity mindset into an abundance mindset, into a manifester um reality. Like, how how do you see this transition going on a either community or state or countrywide, where people start to open up to this new reality, that we are becoming this global society, that we're becoming this gigantic interconnected global society, and the idea that we need to compete for resources, compete for people, compete for everything in the world, compete for money, for scarcity of money, start to fall away, and we start to change our mentality and become a little bit more interconnected, a little bit more harmonious in our existence.
I think like, as where we are right now as an organization, my answer to that is simply I don't know. I'm still trying to understand artists. I understand myself. I understand artists in Sussex County. We just don't have enough information, especially artists like in urban communities, what their unique needs are. I think what is missing so much is connection and this idea of, like you were saying, the scarcity with artists. There's a lot of competition with artists. If you sell your painting, I won't sell mine. So like, fuck you is kind of like this mentality. I've seen it shift in myself. I've seen it shift in this community that we're building here. Um, on a on a community level, I believe that it's been a little ironic to be put into a place where there's like a zero, well, not a zero. I don't want to say that, but there's a very low level of culture here. There's a very low level of opportunities for artists. There's a very non-existent. It's Sussex County is like a very weird animal of culture, we'll just say. And it's known that throughout the state. And the director of the Division of the Arts looked at us at our last meeting and said that what you guys have done in Sussex County, you have transformed the cultural landscape down there. Your organization has done that.
Hmm.
And I think in all the growth and all the pain that we have gone through in the last year, because we scaled way too fast, as you know, and you worked with me through, um, there's so much good that has come out of that and has helped so many people. So I think that I say this a lot and it's probably annoying, but I love it, is that we did not set out to invent a new wheel. We decided to put new spokes on the wheel. And in turn, we actually ended up inventing a new wheel. And I think we're still figuring out what that wheel looked like. And we're taking our time with it now. And it's not a race. And artists are changing, but they are still dealing with a lot of the issues that they were living with and dealing with before. And that is trying to thrive in a community that doesn't allow you to. So I think that, like, kind of my answer to that question is, there's a lot of ego. There's a lot of, we did it this way for the last 100 years. We're going to keep doing it that way. That's embedded in the arts sector.
Mhm.
And that is what's going to be the hardest thing for us to, I think, get through. How we are going to do that is by creating something that is very authentic, something that is very soul purposeful, and it's a movement, not a business. It's not a nonprofit. It's a movement. And as we push that forward, more artists will be a part of it. And then I think that more organizations that think that the like, let's show artwork and take 50% um model of the arts, it needs to change. And I think more people will get involved with this and it's going to start to grow. I just don't think that that foundation is quite there yet to be able to know the building blocks of what that looks like. But I think that we're getting really close to it.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think so as well. I think it's starting to be birthed. It's, you can start to feel that there is a shift in the artist movement, in the artist world. And yeah, the people taking 50%. Again, that's where technology comes along. all it takes is a couple artists to develop a new program or a new system where you can show your art to a million people every single day, and they're taking a very small percentage of that. And that's the beauty of what technology offers, is this ability to see where there's, I don't want to call it injustice, but see where there's a an old way that we've been doing things for hundreds of
Mhm.
years, and create a new system. And I think you've probably experienced that with all the technology that you've brought into building community, building online community, building these developing these technologies that allow you to teach people that you don't need a physical person there to teach you, and really just continuing to build out and leverage that technology to work towards this better, brighter world, to
Yeah.
work towards this more, artistic led world. And again, that there's always a balance. There's always a balance the between the artist who is dealing in the chaos of the world, and the um businessman that is bringing order to that chaos. And there's always that balance that you got to kind of walk between, the artist and the businessman. And I think that where humanity is moving towards is this really coming together. Right now, they feel like they're on polar opposite sides. It feels like we're so far away from each other. But
Mhm.
um, I see it a lot in different businesses, and small businesses, and giant businesses, and large businesses, everywhere in between, where they're bringing on these artistic, creative thinkers, and they're bringing them into their organization and realizing, oh wow, this actually works out pretty well, to have a creative in the mix, on the board, in the boardrooms, or even just within each one of the teams. And um, I definitely see that as an opportunity for, you know, traditional artists to be able to play a role in these companies, these organizations, to mix it up, to provide a different perspective, a new perspective, a creative perspective on that, and really use that creativity to drive innovation, to drive this next evolution of whatever is coming to humanity,
Yeah.
wherever we're moving towards.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the most successful products on our market have the best brand,
Mhm.
has the best story. Conscious giving or conscious capitalism is is definitely something that's shifting, which I think is really cool. And it's that like story of your product is more important, I think, sometimes than how good the product is. And um, business sees that the creative side of it is very crucial. I think there's a big shortage in artists being able to leverage their talents to be able to support capitalism. I think that a lot of artists are kind of taking advantage of in these roles. Like I can think of a dear friend who's a very talented videographer that a big hospital in this community um, basically has him running a like photography, graphic design, and video in a podcast because they don't want to invest in four people. Um, I think that that is starting to shift and people are starting to invest more in the creativity, and the best brands in the world have the biggest creative departments. And their leadership is creative. I think that that balance is really important. I think that's something that we had to discover with DAC was that balance in business leadership and in creative and innovation. Because if you have too much creativity and innovation, then it kind of rolls off the tracks and then it's chaos.
Right.
So that is very important. But I think that myself, wow, what my journey is really kind of two pronged with like proving to people why artists are important, but then also allowing people to kind of see it within themselves. And the same thing for artists. So I think it's being called in kind of like three different directions at all times, which is really interesting. Um, Especially when there's so many roadblocks around it and why, like things can get so difficult. I think it's when you feel that call to something, it just sometimes it pushes you a little too far.
Right. Yeah, yeah. You gotta reel it back in just a little bit, and ground yourself in the reality that of whatever your existence is at that point.
Yeah. Which is cool because that's where I am right now is in this space of trying to figure out what is my most important next move. Where should I be putting my energy and my time and my creativity? And I think a lot of creatives run into this issue of like, is it do I do these paintings? Do I do this photography campaign? Do I start speaking? Do I do do I run the organization? There's just like, I think when you get to a point as a creative and you feel this call to higher purpose, I think that is a really difficult one.
Yeah, I'm experiencing that as well, trying to figure out exactly where I'm moving towards, what I'm moving towards, what I wanna be working on, what do I spend my energy and time doing and being and creating. And it is. I think that a lot of people are going through this experience right now where maybe they had it figured out from a how to make money perspective, but not on how to make a purpose or find their purpose in the world or how to make a difference in the world. And now so many people are trying to figure that out. How do I make my purpose felt in the world? How do I find this whatever it is to become a more purposeful, purpose-driven, purpose-led person, business, um, brand, whatever that is. And we're all kind of going through this all together, and that's kind of a part of this evolution that we're moving towards, away from just okay, safety, security, I'm a victim of what I need to do, and moving into, okay, I'm the creator of my reality. So what do I want to create? How do I want to create this next version of reality that I want to be a part of, that I find exciting and fun? And it's an interesting path, and I certainly I'm open to helping others on this path. I think that it's very important to have people, and I have a coaching program that allows people to find their purpose in life, to understand where they're being drawn towards, and it's unique and it's cool, and I'm excited about that opportunity to help people find that purpose in their life. But at the end of the day, it really does come down to you. You have to be the one who wants to find that purpose, to find that drive, that ambition that you want to pursue, and then go out and take the bull by the horns, and do what you need to do to do that every single day.
Yeah. It's hard. That is the harder choice. And I think that that is what gets in the way of a lot of people. I think people get manifestation a little confused with magic,
Hmm.
which it is. Sometimes it can be very magical, but knowing what you want and having a clear picture of what that is in your mind, um, that that visualization is so key. And I feel like 9 times out of 10, that's not even what ends up happening, but you are so dedicated to that picture. I had this mindset shift recently that seeing that isn't just the ego and some like wishful think wish wishful thinking, but it is a picture of the future. And since I switched that mentality that I'm experiencing glimpses of the future, this is not just my imagination having a good time. I think it really helped me to become relentlessly dedicated to manifesting exactly what I need to get to that. And it looked like so many different things. And I think people get a little lost in the sauce sometimes when they have these big crazy ideas and these visions and these thoughts, and they're like, well, I could never be on that stage in front of hundreds of thousands of people sharing this thing. And when I close my eyes and I look, and like I see you speaking in front of the United Nations a lot,
Hmm.
often, and I also always tend to look at the Kenya representative, which is really cool, and I like see their face, and I've never met this person before, and I think for a long time I've always thought that that was not it, and like that's just like an idea. And I think when I shifted and was like, no, like that is it. And who knows what the hell that's going to be about.
Right. Yeah, you don't know what the steps are to get there, but you can see that it is in the future. It's a future timeline of yours that is possible
Yeah.
in this existence, in this reality. So,
Yes. You focus on the what, and the how's just going to come,
right.
and know your
Exactly.
why.
There you go. Well, I think we got it. I think we found our how to find purpose in life. So, Leah, this has been wonderful. If people are looking to join DAC to learn a little bit more about that, where can they go?
So you can go to developingarts.org if you are just wanting to check us out. If you are an artist, it doesn't matter where you live. We are kind of concentrated on lower Delaware right now, but we are growing. I get an email every time we get someone joining the hub, and it's crazy the amount of people that have been joining us in the last month. But it's dac-hub.com. And if you are interested in seeing my crazy journey and the things that I'm passionate about, DAC is just one little section of the pie of my life. LeahBeach.com is a cool place to kind of see it all unfold visually, because my story, I think, has a lot of artwork tied to it. And I always love when people check out my art and give me feedback, buy print.
Yeah, exactly. Well, beautiful, Leah. I really appreciate you coming on today. This was wonderful, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you again for listening to Changing the Channel with Joe Garner. If you enjoyed the show, please follow the podcast, hit the bell to know when a new show comes out, share with a friend, and rate us on whatever platform you're tuning in from. It helps get these messages out to more people to create the collective shift in reality we are here to experience. Make sure you interact with the Q&A and poll sections of the show so I can continue to provide content you enjoy. Finally, check out my website in the show notes to become a VIP of Changing the Channel and join the shift that is happening.